Hi, I'm Lei. Welcome to Lei's Looking Glass. Sometimes a story is so unbelievable, it forces you to question everything you think you know about life and death. A Tibetan Buddhist monk passes away in California. A baby boy is born in Spain, and the signs, one after another, point to a single shocking conclusion. Reincarnation is more than real. Our story begins in the 1960s when a Tibetan master named Lama started bringing Tibetan Buddhism to the West. His disciples eventually built almost 100 Buddhist centers, meditation halls, monasteries, and publishing houses across more than 20 Western countries, and hundreds of Western men and women even ordained as monks and nuns. In 1984, Lama passed away. And around that same time, on the opposite side of the world, in Spain, a family deeply devoted to Tibetan Buddhism welcomed a baby boy on a stormy night. Thunder and lightning lit up the sky when this unusual boy arrived. The mother felt no pain giving birth, and after he was born, the baby didn't cry at all. Once, the mother even forgot to feed him. Any other newborn would have cried their lungs out, but this child didn't. He just waited quietly, as if he already understood patience. As he grew a little older, he became even more unusual. He didn't like playing with other kids. Instead, he preferred sitting alone in silence, almost like he was lost in thought. One day, his mother took him to a local Buddhist center, and the moment they stepped inside, this usually quiet kid suddenly bolted toward the Tibetan monks, as if he already knew them. Then he picked up their ritual instruments and handled them with shocking familiarity, like he'd used them many times before. Standing nearby was Lama Zopa Rinpoche, one of Lama Yeshe's closest disciples. After Yeshe died, Zopa had repeatedly asked clairvoyant masters to help him locate his master's reincarnation. All the visions pointed to the same clues. The child's father would be named Paco, the mother would be Maria, and the child would be a Western boy with bright, clear eyes. So when Lama Zopa saw this little Spanish boy, he froze. The boy looked exactly like the child from his dreams. He rushed over to ask for the parents' names. Sure enough, the father was Paco, the mother was Maria. Lama Zopa's excitement grew. He asked whether anything unusual had happened before the child was born, and Maria shared something he had never understood. Years earlier, he had met Lama Yeshe, and later she dreamed that he placed the baby in her arms forcefully, as if giving her something important. She later dug out an old videotape from her meeting with the old Lama and found something even more shocking. Lama Yeshe had made several strange remarks back then, remarks nobody paid attention to at the time. He said, "Spain is wonderful. I'd like to stay here for a very long time." To Paco, he had said, "We share a very special bond. I will never forget you, not even after I die." And once, when Maria invited him to their home, Lama Yeshe gently touched her belly, something a monk would normally never do. But Yeshe just chuckled and said, I'll come again." Back to Lama Zopa. The more he watched the kid, the more similarities he saw. The gestures, the expressions, even the way the boy carried himself, all of it reminded him of his master. And whenever the little boy saw a portrait of Lama Yeshe, he would automatically bow again and again, with tears shimmering in his eyes. Eventually, they performed the traditional recognition tests. They mixed Lama Yeshe's personal items with random objects and asked the boy to identify his own belongings. He picked them right out instantly. That settled it. The boy was officially recognized as the reincarnation of Lama Yeshe and received a new name, Osel Rinpoche. But not everyone felt convinced. Some of Lama Yeshe's Western disciples struggled a lot. They said things like, believing reincarnation is already hard for us, but believing that this little Spanish kid is our teacher reborn, that's even harder. Still, when they tested him themselves, their doubts began to fade. One encounter is unforgettable. A Western disciple who had once been Lama Yeshe's driver always carried guilt. Yeshe had asked him many times to fix a broken license plate, but he never did. When young Osel Rinpoche met him for the first time, he casually glanced at the car and said, "You still haven't fixed the license plate." The driver broke down in tears. Through his whole life, Lama Yeshe had dedicated himself to spreading Buddhism in the West. Even when he was gravely ill, he chose to pass away in a California hospital so Western journalists could witness it firsthand. And in death, he closed the circle. He reincarnated into a Western family and became a living example of a Tibetan Lama reborn in the Western world. It feels almost scripted, as if destiny itself wanted the West to see how reincarnation works. And later, this extraordinary story even inspired Hollywood to make the film Little Buddha. But before we continue the stories, let's zoom out for a moment to Buddhism, reincarnation, and the unique tradition of the reincarnated child Lama. In Buddhism, there's a core belief: all beings cycle endlessly through birth and death. One life flows into the next, shaped by our karma, our intentions, actions, and the state of our mind. Only by practicing, cutting off greed, anger, ignorance, attachments, and realizing emptiness can one truly break free. But Tibetan Buddhism adds another layer, something even more extraordinary. They believe that when a tantric master reaches a very high level of cultivation, he can actually choose his next life, meaning when he dies, he doesn't disappear. Powered by the strength of his spiritual practice and the wish to help others, he chooses how to come back, in which body, to which parents, and in which corner of the world, so he can continue guiding people. That's the foundation of the reincarnated Lama. In Tibetan, the word is tulku, meaning emanation or manifestation. A tulku isn't seen as a new life, but as the continuation of a long spiritual journey, life after life, gathering wisdom and merit until reaching full enlightenment. This system dates back to the 12th century, to the Kagyu school. The first Karmapa, Dusam Khenpa, was deeply revered. After he passed away, his disciples had dreams and visions that led them to a particular child. They followed the clues, found the boy, and discovered he had memories and traits uncannily similar to their late master. He became the second Karmapa, Karma Pakshi, the first officially recognized reincarnated child Lama in Tibetan history. From that point on, past life and present life stopped being folklore and became a religious institution. Over the centuries, other schools joined in. Sakya, Nyingma, Gelug, each forming their own reincarnation lineages. The most famous, of course, are the Dalai Lama and Panchen Lama. For these traditions, a reincarnated child isn't just a symbol. He is the heart of the lineage, the monastery, and sometimes an entire community's identity. Recognizing such a child is extremely meticulous. After a master passes away, disciples search for clues, prophecies, sealed letters, last words, visions, dreams, or unusual signs in nature. Sometimes the mother dreams of light, or a white crane, or a monk handing her a baby. Sometimes the monastery experiences strange phenomena, lamps that won't go out, unexplained fragrances, ritual instruments raining on their own. And once they find potential candidates, the testing begins. The most famous is the recognition test, mixing the master's belongings like prayer beads, ritual tools, robes, with random items and letting the child choose. If he picks the correct ones at once, or shows familiar gestures or speech patterns, these become powerful signs. After a child is confirmed, he's brought to the monastery, raised, educated, trained, and when he comes of age, he undergoes the enthronement ceremony, formally inheriting the seat of his previous life. But not every recognized tulku grows up to fulfill that destiny. Their path depends heavily on the family they are born into. Some parents believe and willingly let their child go. Others, out of love, fear, doubt, or financial concern, refuse. And so, some reincarnated lamas continue their journey, while others never return, pulled back into ordinary life. A Chinese scholar and Tibetologist, Guo Heqing, personally witnessed such a tragedy. He recorded it in his book, Records of the Inconceivable. This happened in the 1930s in Ya'an, Sichuan. One day, some local Buddhists brought a 10-year-old boy to a Lama named Congexi. They asked the Lama to examine this unusual child. The boy came from the Zhang family, owners of a well-known pharmacy on the Bodhi Street, and they were wealthy. When the boy was 2, several lamas from Batang in Xikang arrived with maps, birth charts, and physical descriptions, searching for the reincarnation of a deceased High Lama. They visited the Zhangs and examined the boy. On the top of his head, they found a red birthmark, exactly as foretold. The lamas immediately believed they had found the reincarnated tulku. They asked the local commander's wife to translate for them and explained everything, who they were searching for and why they wished to bring the boy back to the monastery. They were also willing to compensate the family generously. But the boy's father refused. "I don't believe in reincarnation," he said. "This is our son. How could we possibly let him go and sell him?" No matter what the lamas said, he wouldn't budge. Finally, with deep disappointment, the lamas prepared to leave. But before they left, they gave one warning. If the tulku cannot return to the monastery to continue his spiritual journey, he will die before age 12. If you change your mind, send us a letter. We will come immediately. It was as if the Zhang family was punished for a grave mistake. Their business began to fail until they could barely keep it running. Remembering the warning, the parents finally decided to let the boy go. But by then, the only person who could contact the lamas, the commander's wife, had already passed away. And with her gone, all communication was lost. From then on, the boy's life grew tragic. Neighbors noticed he never called for his father, not once. And whenever someone mentioned arranging a childhood marriage, common in those days, the boy would stop eating and speaking. He only drank water and fell into silence. When the boy was eventually brought to Lama Chang, the Lama sighed. "This is a true reincarnated child," he said. "But living in the human world too long has clouded his nature. I fear he will not live long." 2 years later, the prophecy came true. At age 12, he caught a cold and refused medicine. He kept muttering in a language that no one understood, like chanting from somewhere far away. He told his mother, "I'm going back to the monastery. Please light more lamps for me." His mother panicked and covered his mouth. Soon after, he began saying the house was unclean. He refused to stay inside and insisted his bedding be moved to the doorway. There, seated upright, calm, composed, like a monk in meditation, he passed away quietly. It's heartbreaking, but in Tibetan belief, it isn't seen as a curse. It's a destiny interrupted, a path cut short, forcing the soul to continue elsewhere. 2 reincarnated lamas, one welcomed back to the monastery, continuing his spiritual journey, the other held back by the human world, ending his journey at 12. The different fates reveal something deeper, the weight of belief and the consequences when that belief is obstructed. Next time, we'll explore an even more complicated story. A master dies and 2 reincarnated children appear. Both are recognized by high lamas, both are acknowledged by official authorities. And this time, the mystery of reincarnation becomes something much larger. It's a test of faith, power, and truth. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.